Axis Mundi, the world tree, connects the many layers, worlds, and facets of our universe. The lower world of watery roots provides access points to deep self-knowledge and the realms of those who have come before us. The midworld of earth and form holds humanity and all physical things, a bridge where connections emerge. And the upper world, billowing in its airy canopy, expands with spirit and the magic of source. Traveling these roads of the Axis Mundi is you, a fiery spark of conscious life. Through this podcast, we meet beyond time and space to explore the information found along the vast arterial pathways of the universal Axis Mundi. In each episode, follow your unique compass through this journey of self-knowledge, taking what resonates and leaving the rest. My name is Meg Bartlett, and this is the Axis Channel. Hello and welcome to another episode here on the Axis Channel. My name is Meg Bartlett, and today we're going to be talking about several fun things like out-of-body experiences, looking at my body actually laying in the bed, which was pretty freaky, and encountering the Annunaki. But before we dive in, if this is your first episode, hello, my name is Meg, and I'm a dream and nightmare educator and galactic cosmonaut, which is just a fun way of saying out-of-body explorer. I love to share my experiences and travels, teach by example, and get you thinking about how you can connect with the universe in your own way. You can use this podcast as a tool for sparking curiosity, learning about how you might potentially encounter across the universe in your own explorations, or just for the fun of storytelling. In every case, I ask that you take what resonates and leave the rest. Okay, let's get into today's episode. So this one is going to be kind of wild. But first of all, I have not been on here in a hot minute. And I know several of you are going to be like, oh my gosh, it's been 3 months. Where have you been? I just published my first book. And I launched on February 27th, which was very, very exciting. I've been doing a couple of events and things like that, but really I was bringing this whole process to closure. My book is called How to Heal Your Nightmares, a memoir and guide for facing your nighttime monsters and using their wisdom to heal your life. This has been a passion project. You can find it anywhere. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. You can find it on my website and buy direct, which greatly supports me, the author, which would be amazing. It's available in paperback and ebook. I do have the intention to put it in audiobook format, but that might be a little bit before it gets out there. And by a little bit, I mean like maybe several months, maybe next year. I'm not quite sure. It kind of depends on how some other things shape out for me. So, but you can look forward to that coming as well. I am just, this was such an exciting process for me. And it was also terrifying at the same time. And my life has changed so viscerally since I started writing this book. It's meant to be a helpful healing tool. It's meant to give you a lot of information. It's not just a memoir. There are some sections in the back of the book, like the exploration and interpretation section, which breaks down the actual nightmares that I've had throughout my lifetime in my unique style of interpretation. I also have a brief compendium of common nightmares, which contains 22 of the most common nightmares I've encountered in my work as a dream and nightmare interpreter. All of this to say, if you're interested in that, please go ahead and check out my book. And if you've already read the book, I would like to ask you to please leave me a review on Amazon or Goodreads or wherever you purchased your book from. Every review just helps other people come into contact with the helpful information in this book. Besides writing a book, my life has been changing in some really crazy ways. So I am kind of morphing my work. If you've noticed, if you've been following me for a while, I have not been offering dream and nightmare interpretation sessions, except for at the local fairs and events that I've been doing, but I don't offer them online anymore. I've kind of been moving away from that. I change very, very rapidly. I am constantly adapting and trying new things, and that is just who I am. That is my base nature. It's something that I really enjoy about myself, that I've come to learn to love because our society doesn't necessarily support that rapid change. And a lot of people in our lives are kind of like, oh, why aren't you still doing this? You know, like, I think you should be doing this. There's a lot of opinions that have been coming to me, which if you're someone who has sent me an opinion of what do you think I should be doing, I do appreciate the suggestions, but I can only do so many things. So I'm kind of defining a new path for myself. I am labeling myself as a dream and nightmare educator because I believe so viscerally that you will always be your own best dream interpreter, right? Dream and nightmare interpreter. I can help ask the right questions. I can give you insight. I can help guide you there. But at the end of the day, you and your life experience is what shapes the interpretation for you. So I am moving more into the educator space. This is a tool, dream and nightmare interpretation, that I believe everyone can benefit from. And I want to teach people how to use that because it's a tool that you can use for life. And just the access to that resource is so important to me. So I'm trying to help people learn more how to interpret themselves, which I am doing through this book, How to Heal Your Nightmares. And I'm already working on 2 other books. So I enjoyed the process so much that you can find 2 more books coming from me very soon. So I'll keep you posted on those, but there will be more to come to help you learn the tool of dream and nightmare interpretation. At the same time, out-of-body experiences, and we're going to move now into the actual episode here. Out-of-body experiences have been up the wazoo for me, like just an insane amount of out-of-body experiences. If you've been listening for a little bit, if not, go back and listen to some of the other OBE related episodes. I talk about how the process of sort of naturally coming into this space was for me. Once I had healed my nightmares, then I had opened up and conquered this fear that I had in the dream space. And I've been able to actually pull myself out of my body very physically, my physical soul, which it is physical. If you didn't know that, at least in my experience, the soul is a very physical thing. It has physical matter. And it's almost as if like right now, I am both Meg, the human body, and Meg, the soul, speaking to you from the same space-time continuum thing. I don't know quite the right verbiage for that, but it's almost as if like we are sharing space right here. My body and my soul are both sharing space, and my soul resonates with my body so much because my body was meant for me. It was designed for me, and I step into it and I can operate it. I can move it. I can do all these things with it. It allows me to have this experience. So I care for my body very, very much, but my body and my soul are 2 separate things, just sharing space together, which is an interesting thing to think about. But the soul has actual physical matter to it. But I really want to talk to you today about how my OBEs have been taking off. I've been having so many of them, and I haven't quite known what to say to you. I haven't known how to get on this podcast and drop you a message because it's just been so vast and so rapidly changing, and there's just so much to cover, and it seems so random, or at least it used to. It used to seem very, very random. Now I'm starting to see that there are different themes and elements. So today we're going to talk about 2 things. We're going to talk about the first time that I saw my physical body, and then we're going to talk about the Annunaki, which I've had 2 different experiences with. And I think going forward, I am going to be sharing mostly these out-of-body experiences with you, and I'm going to be almost separating them by subject. So it might not be, oh, I had this many OBEs in the last week or in the last month, and this is what they were. It's going to be more spread out over time. So it might be, hey, in the last 6 months, I had an out-of-body experience on this craft, and this is specific to this, individual concept. The reason I'm so passionate about out-of-body experiences and why I'm moving so much into this realm is because out-of-body experiences are you exploring the universe. They are you pulling yourself out of your own body and going off and finding your own answers. There are so many different ways that we can come into contact with information about why are we in the human experience? What is this purpose? What is my purpose in being here? What does the universe have to offer? What are the answers to the universe? You have your own unique internal wisdom. You have your own unique language that you speak to yourself with. You have your own soul, and every single person is capable of having these experiences and finding your own information. I am a huge supporter of finding your own information, taking what resonates and leaving the rest. I believe that people can have 2 very different experiences and both of them can be true. There are different types of truth in the universe, and I think it's up to us individually to seek out and find our own truth. So when I'm sharing these episodes with you, I am sharing with you my truth and what I have experienced, and I'm hoping to awaken within you the curiosity to seek out your own answers. There are so many things to learn and know, And it's learning and knowing them from your personal experience, not necessarily just listening to what someone else is telling you should be doing or you should be believing, or things like that. So I encourage you through the sharing of this to go and explore and get curious about yourself and get curious about out-of-body experiences if that's something you want. If not, just listen to this and it can be a really fun story for you. So let's get into talking about the out-of-body experience where I saw my body. So I had started coming across a man named Darius Wright on YouTube, and I had seen him pop up in a few different places. He's been on Gaia TV and Next Level Soul podcast on YouTube and a couple of other things. And this was maybe last summer. And a friend of mine was also looking into Darius Wright. And he had some very, very interesting ideas. He's a very well-traveled and well-experienced out-of-body explorer, and he has a message that he's trying to share right now. I don't resonate with him 100%, but I'm pretty close. Like he and I are pretty much on a very similar wavelength. And a lot of his information was very, very helpful for me. So I was watching some of his free content and just, looking into things. And then I decided to purchase his class. And then you get access to all of his videos on his website. And I said, why not? Christmas present to myself, like just for fun, out-of-body experiences, because they're coming up in my life so much. If you're interested, I will put his information in the description below. I'm not a sponsor or anything like that. I don't even think he knows I exist, but he's been absolutely transformational to my experiences. But I had watched one of his videos about how to enter the out-of-body space, and like one night right before going to bed. And then I decided to try it that night, and it worked. It worked the first night that I tried it. Before this, out-of-body experiences have kind of been hit or miss for me. I never know when they're going to happen. They just sort of happen. And then I'm just there and I'm like, oh, okay, this is the process. All right. I usually become lucid in a dream. That's how I usually enter the out-of-body space, is I become lucid in a dream. And then I feel like I'm almost rising up out of my body or just floating up into the air. But with Darius, he enters the out-of-body space from consciousness, from wakefulness. And so he'll lie down in bed at the beginning of a sleep cycle, right? So he's going to bed at night, he lays down and he keeps the body very, very still. And this is because you're entering REM atonia, which I do talk about. And I have talked about this previously in relationship to sleep paralysis. And this is why it is sleep paralysis. So out-of-body experience is a product of sleep paralysis. There are two different types of sleep paralysis I've come across. One of them is the fear-based sense, which is what we almost always exclusively hear about, which is the sleep paralysis where, there's the demons and the things that come and sit on your chest or watch you, or the creepy shit, right? Like the creepy shit is what we normally hear about. But then there's this other expansive sleep paralysis where your body is just kind of shutting itself down. And there's an actual chemical process that happens in the brain. You can look through my past stuff all about that. And then your soul kind of unhinges. For me, when I do it consciously, I feel almost this like freedom, but it's parts of my body first. So I might shake out an arm first, and then I might shake out a leg, and then I might, try and do all of this other stuff. So the first night that I tried this, I could feel my body shutting down. It's very difficult not to move, but the key is don't move. If you need to itch, if you need to scratch, if you need to sneeze, don't do any of it. Do not move. Have discipline for this process. Discipline is required. So because I had been in the Marine Corps as well, I'm a Marine Corps veteran, I do have a lot of discipline left over in my system. And so this was a fairly easy process for me, just because I've had to, my first experience with real discipline, the Marine Corps sends all of their female recruits to Parris Island, and you all train on that base only. They send males to both Pendleton and to Parris Island, but women only go to Parris Island. Parris Island has a lot of sand, and it is nasty. And sometimes there were places where they would take us on the island, the drill instructors, and we would have to sit down and wait, and you wouldn't be able to move. They would tell you, do not move a muscle. And there were sand flies or black flies that would come up, and they would crawl in your uniform, and they would be crawling all over your body, all over your skin. They would be biting you, and you couldn't do anything about it. You had to just let the bugs crawl. It was awful. It was, yeah, sorry if this is giving you the heebie-jeebies. It was awful, but boy, did I build discipline. So I'm utilizing those skills here, right in the out-of-body space. So the first night I'm trying this, the first time I'm like, ooh, I can feel myself kind of lifting out of my body. It's a very similar feeling to what I've experienced before. And I tried to push myself out very forcefully, which is what Darius recommends. And it didn't work. I did it too early. And I was like, shit. And then I woke up because I physically actually sat up. And so then I went to the bathroom, came back to bed, went through the whole series again, the whole system. Body is feeling that way. And then I felt my way all the way through it. And I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. And I was like, but wait, what if there's more? And I waited too long. I missed the window of opportunity. And then I was like, well, shit. So then I got up again and I was just like, this is fine. I'm just here for the ride. And I decided to try it a third time. The third time I tried it, that was the time that it actually worked for me. And so what I did was I felt my body rising. I took the cue from the last time where I knew what it was. And I was like, okay, now it is safe to do this. And I tried to roll myself out of my own body. And I did it. I rolled myself out to the left and I kind of slumped down onto the floor. And now I'm in my soul body. So my soul body is very physical. It feels just like a physical body, except how do I describe this? Except there's no gravity. There's nothing pulling my body down. I don't feel weighed down. I don't feel any aches and pains. I feel light. I feel good. It feels fucking good. It feels really fucking good. It just feels right? So it just feels really right. And so I'm kind of slumped on the floor and I'm trying to figure out how do I push off when I don't respond to the laws of gravity, right? Like, so I'm trying to figure out how to move my soul body around. And I get up and I've been in the out of body space before, but not through this process. And it did feel very different. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, I'm right here next to my body and I'm normally not. And I was like, I just have to bite the bullet. I just have to fucking do it. And I turn around and I look at myself and I see my actual physical body lying in the bed, asleep, but I can tell that I'm not in it. And that freaked me out so much. I was like, just like the big gasp of air. And I was like, oh my God, just my world shattered. And it was just, I can't even comprehend still like how much it shattered in that moment. And I snapped back into my body because I was like, oh, I can't do that. This is overwhelming, right? So I snap back into my body. I immediately wake up and I'm like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, this is real. Holy shit, this is real. And that was the moment that I went from believing that I am a soul in a human body to knowing I am a soul in a human body. And it was so monumental for me that I did not want to out-of-body experience for 3 to 4 weeks after that. Like I shut down my dream space. I shut down the out-of-body experience. And it sounds like, oh, that would be a really cool thing to realize. It is, but it was also so difficult for my brain to process that because that's like I'm breaking down a major facet of the construct with that knowing. And then I saw the world completely differently. And so for the last 3 months now, because I think this was November 23rd that I had this experience, so 4 months almost, I have been seeing the world so differently. Every single person is a soul in a human body. And when they die, they don't really die, right? Their death does not exist in the way that we have been taught societally and culturally, or the ways that people believe, or the old narrative, right? And it's not even like a heaven or hell kind of thing. It's just like, wow, there are like living magical beings inside every fucking person. And so now when I look at people and I see them limiting themselves, I'm like, wow, what lesson are you working through? Wow, what have you taken on for yourself? Wow, what's your goal? What's your purpose? But from a soul perspective, and it has been like, this has been so life-changing. I haven't quite known what to tell you or share with you because I've been processing it. So that was absolutely insane. After I think about 3 or 4 weeks, I started picking up the lucid dreaming and the out-of-body experiences again. I started recording my dreams with more intention and intensity. And I really got back into it, but I needed that break because that was huge for me. That was very, very huge, just turning around and looking at my body. So if you are a person who has lucid dreams, or if you are having out-of-body experiences already, that's fantastic. I encourage you to ask to see your body, because that is going to fuck you up in the best way possible. So go have fun with that one. All right, we're going to move on. I am coming into contact with the Anunnaki. Now, that might be a weird term for some people. That might be an interesting term for some people. That might be a term that you have never come across before. So the Anunnaki are an alien species, so extraterrestrials. And there are a lot of different forms of information about the Anunnaki out there. I do not know about them a whole lot outside of my personal experience. My personal experiences, I'm going to tell you right now, very, very, very different than what I have encountered online. And this is, who is it? The Ancient Aliens dude, aliens. He's that guy. He talks about the Anunnaki in that show, Ancient Aliens, and he has a lot of things to say about them. And I don't really agree with a whole lot of that. That's my personal opinion, take it or leave it. But here are my personal experiences, which I'm going to share with you today. And you can take this as you will or leave it. It's totally up to you. So the first encounter that I had was in a dream on December 26th. Now, during this time, there was a lot of turmoil kind of in my family. My husband's grandpa was in the hospital and he passed away a few days later. So there was a time of transition with my family. There was a lot of emotional stuff that was kind of coming up. And I don't know if that had anything to do with this experience. I wasn't even planning on saying that, but it's coming out. So good. We're gonna keep note here. And maybe that did mean something. In the experience, I'm just gonna walk you through it. Maybe I'll even read parts of this from my journal because it was very extensive. Okay, so there's an earlier episode that I have that talks about the light tube system. That is how I accessed this. So I was in another dream with my husband, and this was just a dream, and I was being kind of an asshole to him, and I was aware that I was being an asshole, and I was like, why am I being such a dick to the man that I love? Like why am I being such an asshole? And then I got lucid. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting lucid. I'm stepping into this space. And then I felt the pull. And Brandon came with me on this one. He does not have recollection of this. Like he did not recall this as an OBE. But in the experience, I knew that he was there with me. So Brandon is with me in this experience. And we're crawling through this tube that is full of light, and it's almost like a conveyor belt. And it's very, very interesting. Like we're crawling forward and the conveyor belt is pulling us forward, and there's lights just zooming overhead, like shoom, 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 shoom. And it's just like they're like packages of light. I've talked about that before. And they're shooming overhead, shooming. And we're crawling forward, and we get to the other side, and I'm still trying to shake off elements of the dream where I'm an asshole to my husband. I love him very much. Don't know why I was an asshole in the dream. And finally we get out to the other side, and I take in where we are, and I am just in awe. It is so beautiful. It's this almost Polynesian island, like the volcanic mountains, just lush with so many trees and greenery and crystal clear waters, and the air is so beautiful, and there's birds, just singing in the background, and there's just so much life. There's so much life here. And it was just and I'm just struck with the beauty of it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. I was so stunned by it. All right, now I'm going to kind of start reading from my actual journal, and then we'll talk about it at the end. When I first get there, though, I'm drawn to the water and then say something about the beings in the water. And there's a warm light and a glow emanating from the depths. And I want to run and just dive into the water, but I don't, because I don't want the people to think I'm out of custom or doing anything wrong. There was a welcoming party that had greeted us here. And there's a little girl about 6 years old who comes up to me. She starts asking me questions, and she pulls Brandon and I over to this picnic table that's underneath a beautiful tree. And okay, I have to insert it here because this is very poignant kind of to the story and why this little girl is here. I have been dreaming about her since August of last year, because in August of last year, Brandon and I decided that we wanted to try for kids at some point. We have since started trying, which is very exciting. But my old narrative was that I didn't want to have kids. And if you want to know why, read my book, How to Heal Your Nightmares, because the whole writing process of that book really freed me up in a lot of different ways. I didn't think I could heal anymore, but apparently I could. So there we go with that. But this girl has been visiting us, and she's, I think, the soul that is going to be coming in whenever we successfully, start a pregnancy. And I'm just very excited about that. But that's who this girl is. So then this little girl starts asking me questions about my period. And this is, like in the waking life space, we might be like, oh, that's really weird. But in this very visceral, almost, like this out of body, this lucid, this extra consciousness space, that's not abnormal because there are no limitations. There are no societal constructs that show us anything is or is not wrong, right? Like that's just not a thing. So this was totally normal in the context of the space. She's asking me about my period and I don't quite understand. I think it's a mistranslation, but then she continues and she's telling me that she's excited to get her period when she comes to Earth, which means I think I'm definitely having a baby girl then, or she'll at least be born female. She's giggling and she's asking me if I'm excited to get mine every month. And I giggle back, but I say, people here don't often think that. They have the opposite reaction. They're not very excited for it. And then, sometimes they dread it. And she looks at me so intensely and she says that she's going to choose to be excited about it. And it's okay for her to choose her emotions. And she's trying to remind me of that too. And in some of these spaces, right, we communicate with words or we can recall things with words, but there's also other layers of information, almost like packets of information that are encoded in an experience. And as I was digesting this experience later, I had understood that having my period, and just like people talk about this all the time, but just for me, I understood, right, that having my period is the cycle of creation. And I can use that cycle to create things and then to release them out into the world, to create things and then release them out into the world, to create and release. And that's just a gift that I have as a person who has a period, right? And so that's just one of the things that she was kind of reminding me about. Then the girl says, and she almost interrupts herself and everything goes very still. Do you hear the Annunaki? They're calling for you. They're trying to talk to you. Can you hear them? And I look at Brandon and he says, yes, we know who the Annunaki are. And then I look back at the water and I see this amazing, massive, glowing orb ascending up from the depths. And I can't hold back any longer. I run to the beach. I sprint off of this picnic table and I am just flat out running, like running with abandon, like a child, right? Like just running towards this glowing orb. And it's so beautiful. It's golden. It's got this beautiful golden light. It's huge, right? It's huge. And it's just like the water is cascading off of it. And it's so stunningly beautiful. There's rainbows in the water droplets. And it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Let me continue here. I run to the beach and the water and I'm crying and I'm so beyond human emotion for happiness. And that feeling of coming home, of seeing someone I've wanted to see and hold and love for ages and ages. It feels like it's been forever and they're finally here. And I'm crying in awe and gratitude. And the ball breaks the surface and hovers in the air over the beach. And everyone is watching me with love from up on the shore. And they're so happy for me and they're so supportive. Then a pathway in the sand appears before me, and I know exactly what to do. I know exactly how many steps to take. It looks like an elongated horseshoe, the pathway, drawn out in the sand right on the part of the beach where the waves will wash it away, and it flows with warm light, and there's dots running along the inside all the way up. I need to take a certain amount of steps and then finally step my right foot at the curve of the horseshoe in the imprint that's meant for my foot, and I will, quote, receive my powers back, unquote, or the equivalent term, because I'm translating this into English, but it was not, like most of this was just an experience and I just understood the knowing, the sense of knowing, right? But as I began walking, I forget how many steps exactly, and then I just try to trust myself, but the steps start fading and the light goes out in them, and I'm trying not to feel disappointed, and I continue on, and the horseshoe in the sand begins to extend further and further away. By the time I get to the end, I'm afraid it won't work. I missed it or I fucked it up. I still go through with it, though, and place my right foot down where I think it needs to be just to practice. I look up, and there's my reflection, and I see myself standing there naked. and then I wake up. So that's like I have to tell you, like some people might be like, wow, Meg, that's a really funky dream. But it was so viscerally real for me. I was really there and I was really experiencing this. And just the emotion of this. Oh my God. So the Anunnaki are the ball of light, right? The sphere that rose up out of the water. And they're there, potentially on that island, or they were just coming from a portal onto that island. Maybe it was a meeting space for us. I'm not quite sure. Actually, as I'm saying that, I really do feel like it's a meeting space. That might be more of the vibe. And it was just so beautiful. But I woke up with a feeling of disappointment. And later that day, I went to a coffee shop and I was like, well, let me just try to write a creative story based off of this dream and see where it takes me as like a form of processing. And as I was writing that story, I understood they were showing me every single step ahead and my like in my life, like showing me the steps towards the path that I am trying to take. And I know exactly how many steps I need to take. I know exactly what to do, but I might start to doubt myself after a while. The more that this knowledge fades away, the more doubting I might be, the more critical I might be of myself, the more I might forget exactly how many steps. But this experience was designed to show me that I know without a doubt where I am headed. I know how many steps to take. I just need to trust myself. I need to trust my soul. And I am very much supported along the way. And they were really coming through to just give me this experience so that I can refer back to this, so that I can know that I can trust myself, have confidence. I'm doing the thing. I just need to follow the steps. I can't be there right away. I have to do a little bit of the work to get there. I have to walk the journey, right? But I'm already on the path. I'm already on the path, and all I have to do is to keep going. And I thought that was so beautiful. So that was the first experience that I had. Now we're going to talk about the second experience with the Anunnaki. And I've only had the two, but they were so powerful and so visceral that I am sharing them with you today. So the second experience, this is not a OBE. If you're new here, I have very expansive meditations. I will sit down to meditate and I will go off onto starships, or I will, explore space or end up in the cosmos or something like that in my mind's eye. Some people might call that imagination. Doesn't matter. You have an imagination for a reason. Use it. So I go out into these experiences. And if you're in the very psychological camp, that's okay too, right? You can see this as just exploring the vast universe that's within yourself. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that's what all of this is anyways. I had settled down into this meditation. This was just a couple weeks ago on February 24th. And I had a lot of other things on my mind. It was really difficult for me to kind of settle in. And finally, I worked out. I was, just kind of like wiping things away. I was like, okay, I'll think about that later. Yep, I acknowledge that this exists. I'm going to think about that later. Okay, this is that person's problem, not mine. I'm going to let that go, just like clearing things out. And once I had cleared out, my pilot lifted me up by my elbow and we lifted off. And one thing that I don't think I've told anybody yet is that I have a pilot in the out-of-body experience. And she is either another being or a guide who helps me go where I need to go and helps me get into the out-of-body space, or she is me from a future form of consciousness or a greater capacity of consciousness. If I am existing in multiple different layers or places at once, then she is one of those, but she's here to help me in that capacity. So it might be just me helping myself, right? And she's been guiding me in some of these out-of-body experiences. So I feel her presence in the meditation, and I feel my consciousness start to separate. I don't have a full visceral out-of-body experience, like I'm unaware of my body back on Earth. I'm never really unaware of my body in an out-of-body experience, but it definitely is muted the further out I go. But I definitely was very still connected to my body. So it's more like an element of my consciousness lifted off. And she was pulling my consciousness up So she walks me into this space, and I'm on this planet. I know that it's a different planet, and I'm in this beautiful golden wheat field, like something out of the movie Gladiator. That's what it was. Like that wheat field, like you see the scene where his hand is trailing the wheat. That's what it was, right? Except it was very, very beautiful, and it was very golden, right? So more with the golden color. In the previous experience with the Anunnaki, there was the golden light, and it was so, so beautiful, and the golden illuminated pathway. Now I'm in this wheat field of gold, and I'm just standing there and enjoying it. And all of a sudden I see this creature in front of me, this being. And at first I was very hesitant. And then I said, no, there's no reason to be hesitant. They weren't moving. They were just standing there. They were just waiting for me to enter a space of acceptance for looking at them. And they looked, and this is because they looked a little, what we might call freaky. But I just walked myself. I was like, no, there's nothing. I don't feel anything to fear here. There is no fear whatsoever. There's nothing to be afraid of. I feel totally safe. I feel totally held. I feel totally okay. I feel absolutely and totally okay. In fact, I feel really, really good. But this creature looked like a miniature xenomorph from the movie Alien. And those are like historically not the good things, right? But this creature was not like dripping in the black ooze, or like creepy in any way. Like there was no creep factor. It was just a very striking appearance. And the human in me, that human construct, kind of reacted, but my soul was stronger. So my soul said, no, human, construct of societal, what are we afraid of? What are we not afraid of? This is okay. It's okay for us to be here. And I calmed myself down. This being was maybe 3 to 4 feet tall, so very small compared to what we saw in those movies. And they were much more elegant. There was almost this like scythe shape on their heads, like a mohawk, but like very metallic, like almost made of metal. And it ran all the way down their spine and ended in a tail. If you've ever played the video game Breath of the Wild, it's like a Legend of Zelda video game, it kind of looked like Mifa with this scythe shape on top of its head. And other than that, it was like it was shining, it was pristine, it was very, very clean, it was very beautiful. And the first word that popped up into my head to describe this creature was noble. Noble, Noble, like a noble being. And I knew without a doubt that this was a noble being. And this noble being and I, we began to have this conversation. We began talking to each other in the telepathic sense. And they were very, very gentle. They were waiting for me to really get my way and start to speak with them. And I think I'm going to read the rest of this from my journal as well. We began to converse. My pilot assisted at first until I eased into the telepathy. The beings stated that they were glad I had overcome my predisposed urges of fear and instinctively honed in on noble. That is it. I've done it. I have transcended that construct. There was more that I could do from the human perspective to get to a space where I could consciously think this way in my human body. I have transcended my fears. I feel them and can move past them as they still exist. And then he's going on about himself and the Anunnaki and what that means. And all of this is through my perspective and the sense of knowing, because we're speaking beyond words, right? We're speaking in concepts, and I'm just trying to translate this to you here. This being is of the Anunnaki. They appear in many forms, but this is their true state. The aliens in the movie Alien are those who try to disguise themselves as Anunnaki, but their form is too large and too clunky to truly pass. This noble being, the true Anunnaki standing before me, was small, shorter than me, and very slender, graceful even. We talked about the child, the soul that I'm bringing in, and how much joy I will feel in her presence. I am healing whole generations with my book and healing myself, and I am about to live a life full of love and fulfillment. Then, at this point, 2 little noble beings, the Anunnaki, they were children, and they joined us and they started running around. I turned into a lion and roared and played and rolled around in the grass with them. The noble one, the adult Anunnaki, laughed and said, "See, you even remember this and easily exist in this when you desire. You are ready." So all of this, and that was the end of the experience. And then I ended up back in my body again. But all of this is just fascinating to me. Everything that I've read about the Anunnaki, this does not really resonate with that. But in both of these experiences, they came through with the golden imagery, and they were referencing this soul that I am trying to bring into the world, which I find fascinating. I have no idea if the soul themselves has roots in the Anunnaki. I don't know if I have roots in the Anunnaki. I don't know what that means. I don't know why people here on Earth have such a negative disposition towards them, or if they feel afraid of them, or whatever this is. Something's not right. Something's not adding up for me there. So I'm going to continue exploring. We're nearing the end of this episode. I'm going to continue exploring. I will let you know if there are any updates on the Anunnaki front as we go forward. But for today, I think we're just going to wrap this up. These have been my really fascinating experiences. If you like listening to these and it's very interesting for you, feel free to send me a note and let me know. And if you're interested in keeping up with me, please subscribe to my newsletter. That's where I'm at mostly. I'm a little bit on Instagram, but I'm really kind of getting off of social media. It's feeling pretty weird out there. You know, I'm sure all of you are feeling it in your own way, and I'm just kind of doing my own thing. So if you're interested in keeping up with me, please subscribe to my newsletter. Go buy my book if you're interested in it. You can check it out in paperback or ebook, mostly wherever books are sold online. And I love you guys. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope that this is expansive for you and that you get really, really curious about yourself. And maybe this can help you launch into experiencing your own answers and finding your own wisdom, or your own, adventures across the universe. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.